I want to bring back in Nick Thompson, Caitlin Huey-Burns, Leslie Sanchez, and Linda Tran. Welcome to you all. So let's do a bit of a comparison as we continue to keep our eye there on the south lawn of the White House, where we expect President Trump to be departing shortly here. But at last year's State of the Union, the president proposed an immigration reform package, Leslie. Those 4 pillars included $25 billion for border security, a path to citizenship for DACA recipients, an end to the diversity visa program, and an end to so-called chain migration, what others call family migration. Did we see, Leslie, any of those proposals come to fruition?
Not really. I mean, it was the start of how we got to where we are today. But what you have seen is an increase in the pressure to get this done as we're getting closer to the presidential election. And that's really what this is about. It's a campaign promise he wants to see executed one way or the other. And he's still committed to those 4. Well, I would say 2 of those pillars, 2 of them kind of fallen off. And there's other opportunity for compromise with the Democrats.
So prescription drug prices is something that the president also called for lowering. And here's a little bit of what he said.
One of my greatest priorities is to reduce the price of prescription drugs. In many other countries, these drugs cost far less than what we pay in the United States, and it's very, very unfair. That is why I've directed my administration to make fixing the injustice of high drug prices one of my top priorities for the year.
All right, so Linda, is that something that both parties can actually agree on and come to some kind of agreement to?
Both parties can certainly agree that prescription drug prices are a problem and that there needs to be something done about it. However, I can guarantee that Donald Trump's going to say that he's been doing something about it, despite the facts of the world dictating that prescription drug prices have continued to go up. And, you know, everyday ordinary people who are sitting at home watching this and have felt it hit their pocketbooks are going to be able to see through that.
I also want to play another clip, this time on prison reform. Let's listen to that.
America has also finally turned the page on decades of unfair trade deals that sacrificed our prosperity and shipped away our companies, our jobs, and our wealth. Our nation has lost its wealth, but we're getting it back so fast. The era of economic surrender is totally over. From now on, we expect trading relationships to be fair and, very importantly, reciprocal.
All right, so that was obviously not the correct clip. That was on prison reform. We'll talk about that in a moment. But let's talk about trade, Caitlin. So with the end of NAFTA, the start of the USMCA, do you think we're going to be seeing more trade deals like that in the future?
Well, you know, the president is in negotiations with China right now. That is kind of front and center when we're talking about trade policy. And both sides really are trying to get a deal here, because you have China, which, you know, they're experiencing slow economic growth right now because of the president's trade policies. This is something that candidate Donald Trump campaigned vigorously on, and it's something that has distanced himself from members of his own party, has created kind of a schism there, and again, kind of scrambling alliances. You have some Democrats who are very supportive of the idea of, unilateral trade negotiations. So both sides kind of really wanting to get a deal here, and this is going to be kind of the first test in this segment of the president's term about whether he can actually strike a deal with China, because a lot of his actual, constituents, his members of his base, farmers, for example, are negatively impacted by this, and he'll need them in 2020.
Go ahead, Nick.
I mean, it's not just that. I mean, the relationship with China is the most important bilateral relationship in the world, right? They are soon going to become the richest power on Earth, surpassing us. Traditionally, when that happens, the two countries go to war. It'd be really great if that didn't happen, because that'd be bad for all of us. Meanwhile, we have this trade dispute that we're trying to work out, and then there's this huge technology problem in that the world is splitting into a United States technology sphere and a Chinese technology sphere. And these things are playing together. Meanwhile, as we try to make peace and try to resolve this, we've arrested a top executive of Huawei and are trying to extradite her. It's like if China had just arrested Sheryl Sandberg, right? Not a really popular thing in China. So you have all of this going on, and I'm super curious to hear what Trump says about it tonight.
I know the stakes are incredibly high when it comes to China.
They could not be higher. And I sometimes think we don't recognize the risks 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line from what we're doing right now.
All right, so let's go back to prison reform. I'm told that we do have that bite now. This is from last year's State of the Union.
As America regains its strength, opportunity must be extended to all citizens. That is why this year we will embark on reforming our prisons to help former inmates who have served their time get a second chance at life.
All right, so Leslie, the president did end up signing the First Step Act in December, and former inmate Alice Johnson is going to be attending the State of the Union as the president's guest. So is this perhaps another area where Republicans and Democrats can work together?
There definitely is. I mean, there's certainly a lot of frustration of what happened in previous Democratic administrations when it came to a mandatory sentencing and a lot of things that fundamentally, and it's interesting because you have a lot of evangelical Christians and the faith movement that has worked very hard on this issue.
It's a diverse coalition.
It really is, and when you look at that coalition, it's so broad in terms, but they fundamentally agree in fairness here and that the system is wrought with fraud, excuse me, with errors in terms, and it's not functioning properly, and it's really destroying a lot of lives. And I think with that respect, now there's a lot of celebrity involvement that that the president kind of that overshadows a really important issue a lot of people care about. But however we got there, and the president's moving the ball.
All right, Nick, Caitlin, Leslie, and Linda, thank you so much.